Do you know that a simple 900 kilobyte file once damaged one of the most heavily guarded nuclear facilities in the world? No missiles were launched. No soldiers crossed borders. No bombs exploded. Just a small piece of code. And that code quietly attacked Iran's nuclear program from the inside. This is the story of how a tiny digital file became more powerful than a military strike. This is the story of Natanz. Iran's Natanz nuclear research facility is located about 300 kilometers from Tehran. From the outside, it looks like a guarded industrial site surrounded by desert. But underground, it became one of the most strategically important locations in modern geopolitical history. The goal of this facility was simple. Iran wanted to master uranium enrichment. And with that capability, Iran could move closer to developing a nuclear bomb. At that time, the Western world was closely monitoring Iran. Intelligence agencies in the United States and Israel were tracking reports, satellite images, procurement networks, and scientific progress. Many believed that if Iran succeeded in building a nuclear weapon, the balance of power in the Middle East would change dramatically. To avoid attention, Iran built Natanz far from major cities deep inside the desert. It was constructed under about 25 feet of reinforced concrete. The design was intentional. Airstrikes would be difficult. Physical sabotage would be nearly impossible. Security was extremely tight, and access was strictly controlled. As tensions between Iran and Israel increased, Iran accelerated its research. Inside, Natanz, rows of centrifuges spun at extremely high speeds. Iranian scientists were reportedly getting closer to producing highly enriched uranium. This is the key material required for a nuclear weapon. But when the United States and Israel learned how fast the program was advancing, they faced a difficult decision. A direct military strike could ignite a regional war. Diplomatic pressure had limits. Sanctions were slow and uncertain, so they chose a different path. They did something Iran never expected, something that pushed Iran's nuclear program back for years. And they did it without firing a single bullet. So, what exactly did they do? This was not a mission with bombs or assassinations. It became one of the most sophisticated covert cyber operations in modern history. It was completed without a visible explosion. For years, Iran did not even realize it was under attack. The entire operation began with something incredibly small. The file was only about 500 kilobytes, smaller than many images. Inside that file was carefully engineered code. That code became a nightmare for Iran. You might think this was a computer virus, but it was far more advanced. It was a computer worm. Unlike ordinary malware, this worm could spread by itself. It could move from one machine to another automatically. It could search for specific industrial systems. It could identify its target, and it could quietly damage real physical machines. At one point, the infection spread widely across Iran. Many industrial systems were affected. The worm was far more sophisticated than normal malware. It was precise, intelligent, and designed for one specific mission. The operation was later revealed to be called Operation Olympic Games. It was connected to the United States and Israel, and it crossed a new line in global conflict. It showed that a cyber weapon could cause physical destruction. In 2008, scientists at Natanz were enriching uranium-235. This isotope is the critical material used in nuclear weapons. To enrich uranium, Iran relied on centrifuges. These machines spin at extremely high speeds. The spinning process separates uranium-235 from other material. For nuclear power, enrichment around 5% can be enough. But for a nuclear bomb, enrichment needs to reach around 90 to 95%. That difference represents a massive technical challenge and a critical threshold. Then something strange began to happen. Suddenly, machines started malfunctioning. The centrifuges did not behave normally. Sometimes they slowed down unexpectedly. Sometimes they sped up beyond safe limits. Sometimes they stopped completely. In some cases, they broke apart due to stress and imbalance. At first, scientists believed it was a technical fault. Industrial systems can fail. Equipment can degrade. They checked hardware connections. They examined control systems. They reinstalled software. They reset configurations. But the problem kept returning. What made the situation even more confusing was this. Only the most critical machines were affected. The control displays showed normal readings. Monitoring systems reported stable performance. Operators believed everything was functioning correctly. But physically, the machines were being damaged from within. Over time, similar issues appeared at other industrial sites in Iran as well. The problem was not isolated. It was spreading quietly and invisibly. This event showed the world what cyber warfare could look like. It proved that a digital attack could cross into the physical world. Lines of code could destroy machines. Software could sabotage hardware. Now, let us go back a few years to understand how this began. In 2005, Israeli intelligence assessed that Iran could potentially build a nuclear weapon within a few years. Israel saw this as a major threat to national security. Israel considered a direct military strike on nuclear facilities. But such an attack could trigger retaliation. The United States did not want another war. At that time, the United States was already involved in Iraq and Afghanistan. Another conflict could destabilize the region even more. So instead of bombs, they chose code. The mission was to slow Iran down without starting a war, and without leaving clear evidence of responsibility. To understand how the attack worked, you must understand uranium enrichment more deeply. Centrifuges are controlled by industrial software systems. These systems regulate speed, pressure, temperature, and timing. If those settings are altered even slightly at high speeds, the physical integrity of the machine can collapse. The attackers decided to target the centrifuges themselves. They created malware designed to secretly manipulate centrifuge speed. Sometimes it increased the speed beyond safe limits. Sometimes it reduced the speed abruptly. Sometimes it forced temporary shutdowns. At the same time, it fed normal data back to operators. This hid the real damage. This malware became known as Stuxnet. In 2010, a cybersecurity company discovered a strange file named Stuxnet. The file was unusually large for malware. It was complex, multi-layered, and professionally engineered. It could infect systems without being manually installed. It exploited multiple zero-day vulnerabilities. These are hidden software flaws that were not publicly known at the time. They had no existing security patches. Even more alarming, Stuxnet used valid digital certificates from legitimate companies. That made it appear trusted to operating systems. It could bypass certain security protections. Once inside a system, Stuxnet searched for specific industrial control software used to manage centrifuges. If it did not find its target, it remained mostly dormant and continued spreading quietly. But if it found the correct configuration, it activated its sabotage routine. It manipulated industrial controllers. It altered rotation speeds. It damaged centrifuges gradually. And it masked its actions by sending false feedback to monitoring systems. Thousands of centrifuges were reportedly affected. Iran's nuclear program was delayed significantly. But the story does not end there. Stuxnet did not remain confined to Natanz. It spread beyond Iran. It appeared in other countries as well. This revealed a serious risk. Once cyber weapons are released, they can move in unpredictable ways. After Stuxnet became public, other advanced malware families appeared. Some were designed for surveillance, some for espionage, some for financial data theft. The era of state-sponsored cyber weapons had clearly begun. Neither the United States nor Israel officially admitted responsibility. Iran acknowledged that it had been targeted. Iran later expanded its own cyber capabilities. And now, we arrive at the final question. Under which United States president was Stuxnet developed as part of Operation Olympic Games? Comment below.